Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. Oh my God, I got a bad hair day going. Hold on. Let me restart. Hold on. Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we are going to look at hypnotic regression tonight. One of my favorite people in this field, Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, is here. Her beret and all are going to be breaking it all down for us. She's from Toronto via New York. She's a Yankee fan. And I absolutely love her. She is like a beautiful older sister to me. And she is just one of the best. And we're going to get to her momentarily. But first, let us say hello to each and every one of you as we bring in Lesley. You know what? Normally I have a bio written for all of this. I'm not going to do that today because I'm just really into Lesley. I'm really into Lesley and what she brings. She's such a natural. Let's get to the audience here. Hello, SJ in the gold medal position. Kitty Caddywhack in the silver. Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. And we say hello to JSCO. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can't talk alien abduction or contact without being lubed up. It gets a little messy if you don't. So thank you, Mel, for the lube. Don't forget to give yourself a little shot. We'd appreciate that. Race fan, how you doing? Robert Lamoth, good to have you here. Little Cam on YouTube, so excited tonight for this show. He literally, you know those gym bicycles? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. He rode for 100 miles in 22 minutes. The guy was flying. Chris, 14210, what's happening? T-Bone, my man, thanks for coming on in. Necessary Dialogue, good to see you. Luscious Jules, thank you for joining us. Jaquetta is here. Jaquetta will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Les Paul Holland, how you doing, my friend? In Australia, thank you for joining us. As we scroll on down to say hello to Desert Rat. And who is next on our list? Well, let's see here. It's Operation Shutdown. There it is. Operation Shutdown. Thomas Rock, Road Flare. How are you? United we stand. How you doing, my friend? And there's B. Arthur, everybody. B. Arthur will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Skip to Malou, good morning to you. Algaray on Twitch ran 14 miles on the treadmill in 6 minutes. His legs are tired, but he's jacked up for Lesley Mitchell-Clarke tonight. Ryan C., how you doing? Kid, or K17 Odd, how you doing? And Undead Jet again. Integrationing, Lightwalkers, how you doing? I'm Hardcore on YouTube, or on X, pardon me. Thank you for joining us. I'm all over the place tonight. Aussie Boz Tiger and Commonwealth Andrew, nice to have you both here. Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah. I love you, my dear. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. It's going to be a lot of fun. East Coast turnaround on X. Nice to see you. And who is next on our list? Well, let's see here. Mike Rivers is here. Mike Rivers will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in as we get into regression therapy for alien contact. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is here tonight. We are going to have a great time with her. Chaz Mataz, how are you? And who is next on our list? The visionary Eric, welcome. And Jerence Carter, thank you for joining us. Rano good to see you. Walter Kochabinski, thanks for coming on in. And Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Carol Amario, nice to see you. And that's pretty much it. I think we're caught up so far. Store is open on our website. Shop there if you want. I'm not going to ask anymore, because I know we do not have ugly swag. We do not have ugly swag. So check it on out. Horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by listening to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are going to get into ET Contact tonight. Regression hypnotherapist Lesley Mitchell-Clarke joins us from the center of the universe, from Hogtown, from the only place that apparently matters in NHL hockey, Toronto. Yes, scares me. I get hives just thinking about that. And yes, I know I have listeners in Mississauga at Saga 960. Scares me being on the West Coast with all the Torontonians shoving the Blue Jays, the Raptors, and of course the Maple Leafs, 67, by the way, all over me. But Lesley doesn't care about that. She wants to talk some aliens. We're going to get to her momentarily. Then in hour number 3, we got Swamp Dweller to kick things off. Then Robin Haynes will be here for the cryptid Q&A. So we are going to have a lot of fun tonight. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in this field. I got to meet her in 2019 at Alien Cosmic Expo in beautiful Toronto, because Toronto is beautiful. It really is. She is a renowned hypnotherapist, regression specialist, leading voice in the study of UFO contact and non-human intelligence. With decades of professional experience, Lesley is best known for her pioneering work in experiencer research, helping individuals explore extraordinary encounters through advanced hypnosis and consciousness-based techniques. Lesley is a creator and host of a long-running radio program called Contact, where she has interviewed hundreds of researchers, scientists, and experiencers from around the world, making her a very trusted voice within our community. And best part about it for us tonight, she's here and she likes us. She really likes us. Lesley Mitchell, how are you, my beautiful friend?
Dave, how wonderful to be visiting you again. And I want to give a big shout out to all your wonderful peeps, your regular listeners. We always get the most fascinating questions from these good folks. I'm so happy to be here, and really looking forward to taking a deep dive down the old rabbit hole. And so greetings from the big smoke. Here we are, and ask me anything, Dave.
I will. I want to know this for our audience who may not be familiar with your outstanding work in this community. How did it all begin for you? Why did you make this a passion of yours?
Well, I did have my own experiences as a younger person, and there was a particularly um, uh, shall I say, remarkable one that happened when I was working in summer stock theater when I was only about 16 years old. So I had always, um, had an awareness, well, even a belief in extraterrestrial life or interdimensional life or both. And certainly when the film, oh my God, Eric von Daniken's brilliant film, his little 8 millimeter film, I call it, Chariots of the Gods. When that came out, I felt as if I had finally clicked into what had been my emotional belief, but I hadn't been able to come out with it. So a lot of things resonated together. But when I was first working as a hypnotherapist after really a long career in the entertainment business, pretty much, it was a while before I had the credentials to do regression. And when I was first doing regression, it was, excuse me, primarily past life regression, which is, of course, fascinating and takes a certain level of skill as a hypnotherapist to make it safe for the client and a wonderful experience for them. So I did that for quite a while, and I was working at a kind of a upscale, if you can imagine, kind of an upscale hypnosis clinic in a part of town we call Yorkville, kind of Beverly Hills like, and Shirley MacLaine used to fly in to see us, and it was very kind of star-studded. But the odd thing is that maybe about once a month, an individual would call in saying that they believed they had some type of encounter of high strangeness. Now, none of the other practitioners wanted to touch this with like a 10-foot pole. They didn't even want to deal with it. So I said, well, for God's sake, send these people to me. So what I began doing is I actually adapted techniques that we use in past life regression and other types of regressions. I adapted them specifically for working with individuals who believe they have had an experience of this nature of high strangeness. And it wasn't long before I was working with Kathleen Marden in her, well, my goodness, it was a decade long, but it was an experience and research program conducted under the auspices of MUFON. And I was very blessed, honored to be able to work with many of those individuals who were taken into consideration in this massive research program. And I did the same kind of thing for what is it called now? Free Experiencers. I believe Ray Hernandez is now running that organization, but it was Dr. Edgar Mitchell's organization, and they had a parallel, a parallel research program going with MUFONs, and I was able to work with both of them. So I was very honored to kind of be on the front lines, I felt. And of course, in my own practice, it really became primarily about working with these very special people.
What makes an ET contact or an ET contactee special?
Well, this is obviously just about the biggest question that one can ask. And I can only tell you my own opinion here from, working with many of these individuals. I mean, the first thing that I will say is ET contact doesn't know any kind of boundaries of culture or language or religion. This is something that happens across the board, all over the world, to every kind of person from every socioeconomic level. It's not just, as we've been kind of led to believe, it's not just, some ignorant farmers from the lower 48 with like 3 teeth. It's not that at all. I would say that the one thing that seems to me to stand out with all the individuals that I have worked with is high psychic ability, strong PSI skills. Now, is this because the ETs or some group of the ETs is following groups of people in a genetic way, and that they are monitoring people whose DNA has been enhanced? Is it simply our nature that we have a certain percentage of people, like people who are Mozarts or with musical ability, a certain percentage that are also very enhanced psychically? There is evidence to support that there is intergenerational experience going on, and that certain familial lines seem to be followed. But beyond that, you would be hard pressed to find an ET experiencer who didn't also have what we would call psychic or metaphysical experiences. So these special people, I believe, are special because they can communicate telepathically. And I think that many of the advanced species, many of the species that we engage with, both consciously and in our etheric bodies, I think that many of them are or prefer to communicate telepathically. It's kind of like, let me just have a little drink of water here. It's kind of like if you were Jane Goodall and you were in the middle of Africa and you had just discovered a new species of primate, and maybe 5% of those primates had a human esophageal kind of situation and could actually form words. Now, wouldn't you, as an explorer, want to focus your time on the beings with which you had a chance of communicating?
As an ET experiencer myself, and you and I have talked a little bit
Yes.
about that over the years, I have noticed changes in myself. I have noticed changes in the way I look at certain subjects, especially this one. And I'm wondering for you, as you have gone down this path of learning and studying, because there is no IKEA outline for trying to figure out how to help somebody who has ET experience or ET
Hmm.
abductions. How did you start to learn the process of figuring out what to do to help people?
Well, I think that what we are really talking about here much of the time is a very specific type of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I have worked in that extensively all of my career, really. I work with a lot of frontline responders. I'm a consultant for a psychology firm that only does that kind of work. So again, it was a question of adaptation. And but the most important thing, I really have to stress, I think knowledge is power. And I also believe that there is nothing that can, no artificial memory block, whether it was created by our own black ops or by ETs or some combination of both. I don't believe that any memory block can last forever. And so what does happen with many of the individuals that I work with, that by the time that they reach midlife, because it's said that these memory blocks, they really can only work for about 20 years effectively. So what starts to happen is many people in midlife begin to have, I would say, flashbacks, the way you would if you'd been to Vietnam, any type of PTSD past. So it starts acting like PTSD. It starts often with the flashbacks, and then maybe people have dreams and more comes out of it. So, um, many people that I work with come to me in midlife. It's a little more unusual for me to work with a younger person. And I think this is simply due to memory suppression techniques that are being used on younger people more frequently.
Are more people now being abducted or having ET contact compared to, say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
I would say absolutely. I mean, it's now estimated that, more, and these are legitimate contacts, more than, 14 million people in the United States alone have reported, you know, things happening. And imagine how many incidents are not reported. And then we have, this interesting question, which has certainly come up, Dave, a lot more in this past decade than it ever had before, I believe. And we've talked about this too. Interdimensional experiences or interdimensional beings who are able to communicate with us in dreams and in other maybe more mystical way, what we would feel would be mystical ways. So there's all kinds of contact going on. There are beings that are very much like us, that are based in the third density, that can pass on the street, that you would never realize were Pleiadians or Lyrans or whatever. And there are beings that can't really or choose not to really physicalize because their matter is lighter than our matter. So we have a wide variety of things going on. But what I must mention, though, is when you ask me, are more people having contact experiences? First of all, I would say a hearty yes to that and talk about the different kinds they have. But I think what is most reassuring is the rather odious genetic um, type of reproductive experimentation that went on from the Zeta Reticulites, just after World War II and right through into the 80s. That kind of experimentation that occurred under the Truman Agreement, later the Eisenhower Agreement, that really is gone. We are not seeing these aggressive types of traumatic kidnappings where women's ova is taken and sperm is taken, and perhaps they're creating hybrid children. Well, they were creating hybrid children. We know that. So that type of thing that is so traumatic has not really been a reality in the scope of experiences that people are having for some time. So if someone comes to me now who has had those experiences, they are generally quite a senior person.
How does someone know that they are being taken compared to whether or not they are having nightmares?
Oh boy. Well, that's a very interesting question, and I would say that many people or many experiencers that I've worked with seem to almost have a double life where they go about their, as I said, their third density business here in our realm, and then they have a very profound ability to to bilocate or astral project. So I'm going to call it I don't really refer to it as the soul, but I think it's more like a psychophysical body is able to be projected. And those experiences often feel like waking dreams. I wouldn't call them nightmares, but they are often remembered in pieces. Someone remembers, for instance, I was working with a young lady, and she was having these experiences where I believe she was bilocating. I don't think she was physically taken on craft, but with the psychophysical body, you can behave in physical ways. And she talked all about how her job on this kind of mothership was as a sort of zoologist, like a humane zoologist. And she described some of the animals to me that they were researching, and some of the beings that she was working with, and these things, she, of course, after the regression process and being able to talk about them, they then are incorporated into the person's conscious memory and their experiences. So I think that the main difference is that the dreams, the experiences themselves, if people are recalling parts of them, seem as if they're in hyper reality. They don't, and they also are in time. They work in a kind of a timeline. How dreams will jump around all over the place. So there are a few other dead giveaways. And then, you've probably heard that people have had the experience or feel they've had the experience of not being able to get back into their body very smoothly and experiencing a kind of sleep paralysis. And that can be very frightening, but sleep paralysis is just a real medical thing. And it happens because when we go to sleep, we release chemicals that sedate our body so that we can't act out our dreams. So it's possible to start to wake up consciously, and those soporific chemicals haven't worn off yet. And it feels as if you are trapped in your body and paralyzed, but it's very momentary, and it's really a medical thing. So sleep paralysis, I think, is something else. That's not what we're talking about here. But vivid dreams, vivid waking dreams are a big dead giveaway. And sometimes people have marks on their bodies. I don't mean like destructive, like surgical scars, but often people find triangles of different types in different places on their bodies. Triangles that almost look like a little burn, like a little skin burn. I think it probably is just in the realm of diagnostics. It doesn't seem to have any negative connotation, but people do return from both physical experiences and also astral experiences with demarcations of all different types on their bodies.
We have about a minute to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. The stories you must have heard and continue to hear. Have you ever found patterns that go along with ET contactees?
Do you mean similarities in their
Yes.
stories? Absolutely. Absolutely. And yet, sometimes I will hear something, that I've never heard before. That is, so yes, but there are commonalities. I'd say a big commonality is telepathic communication. A big commonality is being told that they are here benevolently, and they're very concerned about our planet and the abuse of our planet and our warlike nature and things like that. They also they seem to have a policy, Dave, that's not unlike the Star Trek prime directive.
Hold that thought. Let's continue that. When we return, Lesley Mitchell-Clarke on Spaced Out Radio. Therapy for ET Contactees next. All right, we are clear. That's enough. Hi, I'm Dave.
Hi.
I want a roll call in our chat room tonight of where everybody is. Don't tell me your state. Tell me your city. I want to know. Thurston Howell the third. How you doing? How's Lovey? I don't know why I want to know. I just want to know. Tankella, how are you? Benno from Oz. Los Angeles for Julie Rios. Nice. Are you going to come to our Vegas event May 21st to 25th? It's only 4 hours away. Pittsburgh for Operation Shutdown. He likes a good Permonte sandwich. By the way, at a Quaker Steak and Lube just outside of Pittsburgh, my name is on the wall for the hot wings challenge. Let's see here. Spokane for K17 Odd. A good Chiefs fan of the WHL. Undead Jed from Woodstock. Laurel, is that the same place where the television show is shot, JSCO? Capole. I don't know where Capole is, Cowie. Buffalo. That's a sad place right now, Buffalo. Tim Mothman's from Goatee Land. Chaz is from Toronto. Windsor. Vancouver for SJ. Sorry about that. All right. Regalsville. I don't know where Regalsville is. For Walter Kochabinski. Etobicoke for Hillbilly Herb. The Etobicoke Canucks, I believe it was at one time, for their minor hockey system. Pentago. Where's Pentago, Candace? That sounds West Coast. Oh, let's see here. Langford on Vancouver Island for Sandra. Chinchilla, Queensland, Australia for Aussie Boss Tiger. Jeanette, PA, never been there. Manchester, England for Dave. Good morning to you, fellow Commonwealther. Jacksonville, Florida for Blue Cruise. Taylor Bickle, welcome to SO Chat from San Mateo. St. Petersburg, Florida for Ryan. I love doing this. Caged on the Insides from Jacksonville, too. Look at that. Somewhere's Town for Tarnation. Nashville for Jeffrey Green. This is awesome. I love this. I do. Skip to my Lose in Holbach, Denmark. She wants to move to Greenland. Wonder why. Area 54 is from Area 54, just outside Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, it's Hawaii. Okay. I didn't know. I've never been to Hawaii. Have you been to Hawaii before, Lesley?
Oh, yes, many a time. But in the old days, we couldn't fly to Japan from LA without stopping there to refuel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I went many times.
Three Rivers for Silent Listen.
Trois-Rivières.
Oh, Candace is in Texas. That's where that is. Osage Beach, Missouri for Jaquetta. I'm in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Find me. 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Bear Valley Springs, California for Doubleday, a.k.a. Southern Sierra. J. Trueseeker from Canada, West Coast, British Columbia, the Fraser Valley. Scouse is from everywhere. Candace, thank you for your loving super chat. Appreciate you, my dear. Are you going to join us in Vegas? Who's joining us in Vegas? Mercer Island, Washington for Alpine Fur, Thomas Rock. Los Angeles for Vamp. You got to join us in Vegas. You're too close not to. All right. Algoray on Twitch is from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. It's where he keeps his 458-pound dumbbell. All right. Thank you to Candace, Area 54, and T-Bone for the super chats. Appreciate the love. The love. And Lesley, we're going to get going in 5 seconds, okay?
Cool.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now kicked off. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate you tuning us in as we tell you all about where you can find this show's archives. YouTube, any major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here she is, my favorite hypnotherapist in the world. Her name, Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, and she helps guide ET contactees and abductees into learning what is going on with them. Lesley, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate
Dave, my pleasure to be here. I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah.
What makes it fun for what you do? Because you hear a lot of, and I don't mean this insultingly, insane stories from people.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say, Dave, at my core, I'm a healer. That is, so my goal in working with these wonderful people is to help them to process and integrate their experiences and really realize what amazing people they are. And if they want to go farther with it and, continue to engage with the ETs in a almost a contractual way, some of them do that. Some of them do not. But above all, I am very dedicated to taking the trauma and the fear, and mostly the fear of the unknown. I mean, what you don't know is what you can't recall is more frightening than what it actually is. And so that's really my objective. I want to gently, therapeutically guide individuals through the experiences that they have had, and so they can get an understanding that they are not insane. Now, for many people, Dave, who come to see me, I mean, in all honesty, I am the last chance Texaco of mental health care, really. And so many people who have come to me, especially those who began having memories in midlife, which I mentioned earlier in the last half hour, they certainly have been assessed and told that, well, nobody knows what's wrong, but they can't figure it out, and it's some type of confabulation and ba-ba-da-ba-da. So these dear people are coming to me with a completely distorted sense of what's actually going on. And, before I see anybody, Dave, you know this, I do a very thorough intake. If I can't see them in person, we talk on Zoom or whatever, but I have a whole bunch of questions that I ask. I take as complete as I can get, psychiatric and medical history. So I have a pretty darn good idea when someone wants to work with me if they are mentally healthy or not.
I can see where that would be of great benefit, because there are a lot of people, to play the skeptical side for a second.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there who feel this is their way to get attention. This is their way. Maybe they feel a little bit different. Maybe they feel like the oddball, and maybe they're just trying to seek out attention and say something that is so outlandish and, pun intended, out of this world, that
Mhm.
they are going to try and make this their story.
Well, yeah, there are. I mean, there are plenty of mental health issues, borderline personality disorder, various types of schizophrenia. There are many mental health issues in which the individual is involved in a lot of confabulation, and that is symptomatic of the mental health issue. So you are absolutely right in that, Dave, that people will come with, well, they never get that far with me, that they come in with the confabulated story. If I hear it, it's going to be, on the phone or on Zoom. So, uh, but um, but also, and I should put this out there, as strange as this may seem, having mental health issues doesn't necessarily preclude you from having an actual ET experience. So there is some cross pollination there. And some people really become, they're not able to handle what happened to them. And they go into some, and they become, what shall I say, um, really unable to function in our modern society. They are carrying so much trauma or bizarreness. And who's to say that sometimes they don't tinker with our hardware when we're up there, if that in fact happens, and then people come back and they're not essentially the same. So we have a lot of things going on, but above all, I must be so scrupulous, Dave, that I do not work with anyone in regression and this type of thing who has been diagnosed with a mental illness. And I don't mean just some anxiety, depression, what have you. I mean a profound mental illness, like a bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or psychosis, something like that. And so that's why I always err on the side of my gut, what my gut tells me, you know. But I have seen, before I was even doing this kind of work, in university. I worked my way through university. I was a psychiatric aide and then a psychiatric technician in a state mental hospital. So I have seen some pretty eccentric behavior, but I have seen enough to really have a feeling if someone is stable or not.
I love it. I love it. When it comes to people who have experiences with unknown entities, wherever they are from, what kind of stories are they telling you? Can you give us an example?
Yes, I can. Now, what we often hear, myself and other people like Dr. Georgina Ken and other people that do this work, what we often hear is that the ETs that are visiting or communicating have some type of a soul connection with the experiencer. And what they seem to often say that when that person, that experiencer, came into life as a human being on planet Earth, part of their plan for being here would be to work with these more evolved beings to begin to uplift mankind. So we often hear about a soul connection, and this now kind of gets a little bit into the area of past lives or the intralife experience. But
Right.
um it would seem, from what I have been told, and of course Dolores Cannon, Georgina Cannon, all my colleagues, what we have been told is that we are really in a soul group with a lot of different beings. Now, all essentially humanoid. I'm not talking about anything too far out, like, octopi or what have you, but we are in a soul group with many different bipedal beings that are close enough to us that we can incarnate into these different types of bodies if we choose, and incarnate on other planets. So many of the experiencers tell me that they had a lifetime on another planet, and the people that are visiting them now are family or related to them, or they know them. And I find that very fascinating, because here we have soul connection going on, across light years and dimensions. And I find it very fascinating. So that is one of the very interesting things that I do here, where the ETs and the, for lack of a better term, and the individuals have a history together, and my client, the earthling, also remembers past lifetimes on this distant planet environment. Another thing that I find interesting, well, boy, there's so much that's interesting, is there have been some clients that, I have worked with for a long time, who really do almost more of a channeling thing when they come to see me. And this is all about trust and their comfort level with the beings they communicate. So I will put people in trance, and then I will simply ask questions, and then the patient or the client in the chair there, who's in a trance state, will answer those questions, because they are hearing the answers from the ET beings, who are also somehow participating in the hypnosis. It's pretty wild, right?
I can see that.
But it's always fascinating, and I ask questions like, what are the purposes of implants? And I ask questions about, did you live as a society on this earth before? And then I get fascinating answers, and I record all this, of course, and I give these recordings to the client. I don't keep them myself, but I do record all of these regression sessions for the individual that's having them. Another kind of interesting thing to think about is, and this again is about challenging our thoughts about interdimensionality. I saw for quite a number of times a lovely young lady, excuse me just a moment, and she had been an experiencer since she was a small child. And first of all, I also want to say, I don't believe that there is any such thing as someone who's had one isolated experience. I don't think that happens unless it's a very fluky thing. So my gal that I was working with she told me about experiences from the time she was maybe 3. And there was a certain being who used to come to see her and pick her up, as it were. And she thought that this being looked like an angel. So she called her Angie, but she thought that obviously she was very tall, very beautiful, with long red hair. And she would come, and usually my little gal would wake up in the night and just run outside into the backyard. And she'd be there in a small craft. And sometimes they would go to a larger craft where she would play with other children, other hybrid children, or go to classes. It was really something. And so one time in one of these trips, I think she was about 7 or 8, something like that, she said to Angie, I want to see where you live. Where is your planet? And Angie said, well, I can take you to the space where it is, but you won't be able to see it because all the matter is vibrating more quickly. Well, that certainly sounds like a description of an interdimensional situation to me. And the idea that us, as sky watchers, the universe must be full of life and planets that we can't even see because they're on the radio dial, they're tuned up a little bit. So, those are just a few of the things that really, really make me think and, kind of put me in awe of the process.
When you are dealing with people who think they have implants, how are we able to detect whether or not some alien species has bugged us for detection?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that, and as you know, Dave, each individual on this planet has a unique brain signature, like a barcode. So, as far as sophisticated beings being able to find us, they certainly don't need to use any hardware to do it. However, that being said, I think that particularly again in the Eisenhower leading up, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I think that many implants were sort of collaborations between, potentially, black ops military projects. And I do think that those types of implants were probably gathering some sort of data, but I would be hesitant to think it really was anything like a tracking dot. They're so far, beyond that. And the thing about the implants is that, what was that wonderful Dr. Lear, of course, was the expert. He removed all kinds of implants. So there were implants that gave a radio signal. There were implants that as soon as they were exposed to the air, they dissolved. There were implants that would literally run from the surgical devices, and they were very difficult to remove. So there was a variety of stuff. But I personally think a lot of that had to do with our own nascent technology. Now, I have heard, though, that some extraterrestrial beings who are evolved do use implants, but only in the etheric body, like in someone's aura, and and they do use something that's kind of like they have devices or technology, I'm not sure what to call it, that acts kind of like a step up transformer. So it helps the individual to actually be, more psychic, more tuned in. And these type of implants just dissolve when they're no longer needed. They're not seen because they're in the etheric realm, but they are attached to I suppose, the astral body. I mean, again, this is what I've heard. I don't have a way to verify this, but I've heard it many a time about the sort of esoteric light matter implants that are working to help the people that they contact to be able to communicate more fully telepathically and in remote viewing and all the other ways.
5 minutes to go here. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is our guest tonight. Tell me about this telepathic connection.
You mean that exists in
between the ETs and humanity?
Oh boy. Well, I am one of these, believers in the work of Zecharia Sitchin. And in my own personal belief system, I believe that we were, in fact, upgraded by the ancient Sumerians through a variety of genetic experimentation, not unlike, the island of Dr. Moreau. That's not really fiction. I think that actually happened. And I think that some people on this planet, maybe more than we think, are still carrying vestiges of that exceptional kind of DNA that made people able to even levitate things. I think it was quite remarkable, really. So I think that there are genetic descendants of evolved beings. And I also think that we are also at a place of development where we are throwing aside any kind of blockages that may have been placed there to keep us from evolving. Now that is a kind of a school of thought, and I'm not sure what to think about this. It's up to you, everyone who's listening, but there is a school of thought that in this process of upgrading us to keep us as a sort of a slave society, if you will, that our natural evolutionary abilities, our ability to become, fifth dimensional beings and to evolve spiritually, was actually truncated by the ETs to keep us sort of in our place. And in fact, there is an awful lot of DNA in the human genome that we have no idea about what it does or what it could do. I don't think there is any such thing as junk DNA. I think that's a ridiculous phrase. So there's just DNA that we don't understand yet.
Do you
So
do you think that these implants are biological or some sort of computer? Do you think that they are meant to track what we are doing, much like a database? Or do you think that they are monitoring our movement so they always know where they are or where we are?
I don't think the monitoring of movements, the tracking dot thing, is very realistic because of the sophistication of the beings we're dealing with and the ability for us to have individual brain signatures. But I do think that there have been times where data was collected, maybe hormonal levels, maybe this, maybe that, maybe even times when women were fertile, when they were ovulating. I mean, who knows? But yes, I think that data certainly was collected, particularly by the by the Greys that were involved in all of this, the Zeta reticulites that were involved in all of this genetic experimentation. I think they absolutely were collecting data of all sorts. Now, I also think that there are implants that are both mechanical and biological, and or a combination of both. I also think that there are various species of grays or types of grays that are not fully biological, that are beings that have been created for space travel, for deep space travel, and are not really biological and not really machines. So I think that integration of machine and biology is something that's used pretty freely in advanced cultures. And, it's for us, it makes me very nervous, right? I don't even like the idea of AI, and yet, my good friend Colonel Randy Kramer, who is now deeply involved in creating sophisticated AI that will do healing and all these amazing things. So I should probably just open up my mind to the fact that that is an aspect of our future where technology becomes self-aware, I guess, in a sense.
I love that self-awareness.
Yeah.
That's very important. When we get into the next half hour, I want you to take us how a regression therapy works. How
Okay.
you gain the information, and then we'll get some audience questions because I know they are
Oh,
lining up.
I
The
love
love
that. I love that.
the lovely, the talented, and the absolute stoic Lesley Mitchell-Clarke here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We have her for another hour to go here on the show. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear, Lesley. I'm going to put you in the green room. We have about 5.5 minutes, okay?
I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Be right back, everybody. Okay. Let's bring Lesley in as we got about a minute to go here. Hi, Lesley.
Hello. I feel better. Thank you.
Beautiful. Let's say hello to Kurt M for joining us in hour 2. Kurt M, everybody.
The gates, Kurt.
The M of Kurt. Right there. The M of Kurt. All right. Thank you tonight to T-Bone for gifting a membership, T-Bone for the super chat, Area 54, and Candace, thank you very much for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Our store is always open on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and come hang out with us. I'll be in San Francisco for UFO Con at the end of March, Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, end of April, and Vegas in the end of May. Going to travel. Here we go, everybody. We are into hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. We're talking hypnotherapy for ET Contactees. My name is Dave Scott. Our guest is Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, and we are having a blast with her tonight. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Wiseacre. Wiseacre is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in our guest tonight, Lesley Mitchell-Clarke. She's an author. She is the director of Lightwork Hypnosis, and she deals with ET Contactees. And in this half hour, we want to learn, how do you regress someone to find out their ET connection?
Well, firstly, Dave, I should say that I don't generally work with anyone unless they have at least a partial memory, or this is something that Kathleen Martin told me to do a long time ago, and she was right, because there must be at least, that has to be a must for us. There has to at least be some kind of a partial memory of something, of some high strangeness. So after I've done my intake, and I'm satisfied that both that the person probably had an experience of high strangeness, and also that they're mentally stable, the regression process can go ahead. So what I generally do is, first, I get somebody very, very relaxed, and it's really pleasant. I mean, hypnosis is ancient in the extreme. It's over 6,000 years old, and if you take into consideration maybe even earlier situations like Atlantis and Lemuria, it's probably even older than that. But it's a powerful tool with actually a very simple explanation, and that is that if I can get somebody's body relaxed enough, and of course these days we do it just by talking. Back when the Greeks were running sleep temples, the first thing they did was give their patient a huge opiated drink, but that's frowned upon in Ontario, so we don't do that. But at any rate, I do that simply by using progressive relaxation, metaphors. I will even use music. It's whatever I need to do. And if I can get the body, the physical body, relaxed enough, then that little membrane that separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind where our memories and our experiences and our behaviors are stored. If I can do that, then I can get in there. I can take the patient down that road and into a journey of their own subconscious mind where all of their stuff is at their fingertips. Like that's how you get to the great Akasha, by going into an altered state. So that's what I do now. Many people who do regression work say, well, you must get a client or a patient into the theta state. And certainly that's wonderful if you can do that. But the reality is that you really only need to get somebody into the alpha state to do regression because they're not unconscious. So part of the, I guess if you could call it an art, or part of the skill of what I do, is being able to recognize and ease and direct people into the correct brain frequency where we can do the kind of work we need to do and where they will still not slip into the delta state, which is sleep. Sleep as we think of it. So that's what I do not want. I want to keep people, in that alpha zone. If they go into the theta state, fabulous, but it's not really necessary. So after I've done a pretty thorough relaxation, then the next process that I usually go through is, and this is to sort of warm up the recollection, the memory mechanism. So the next thing I do is I start bringing people to different points in their life. Like I'll say, you're 30 years old and I want you to find I want you to visit or remember a really happy time. So it's all positive. We don't have anybody looking for any bad memories. We have them going back in time in their own lifetimes, this current lifetime, at various ages. So I do that. And then when I feel that the individual is traveling easily, and when I'm getting good recollections, like somebody's at a birthday party when they're 5 and they're able to tell me, well, what does your little dress look like, what are you wearing, da, and so when I'm confident that that's all working as it should, then I will direct the individual to the initial experience that they came to me for. I might say, well, it's a July evening, you're out by the lake and blah, blah, blah. And, and then what happens? But I don't lead them. I cannot lead them. So I have to be very, very careful to bring someone to the point of the experience, but not to in any way feed or inform them or manipulate them into anything I want them to say, if you know what I mean. So we usually, in a first session, after we process that initial experience, people usually need a lot of aftercare because they're generally quite surprised. They may be shocked. They may be stunned. They may simply be in a place of joy because they feel vindicated because something actually did happen. So whatever it is, I have to take time to, help the person to process their experience and to feel confident and comfortable and safe when they leave my treatment space. And that would be a typical first session. But, as I've explained, I don't believe that any experiencer has had one isolated experience. So what generally will happen is once once I get in there and sort of stir the pot, then the individual I'm working with will invariably have some very distinctive dreams or even daydreams or even daytime visions of other stuff. It's like the dam starts breaking, right? The little brick comes out, the memory is starting to shoot out, and eventually it just gives way. And I have been able to help people process many experiences and, in fact, come to places of great peace after having a very emotionally difficult life sometimes.
What is the emotion that people will go through when you regress them into what happened, either in their bedroom or on craft or wherever it may be? You must have heard some incredibly emotional stories.
I have, Dave. But one thing, and I really want to convey this to your marvelous peeps who are listening tonight, in case anyone is interested in going through this process. I don't let anyone go through trauma. So when I'm there, if we begin moving through an experience, and maybe it's not quite what I expected, it isn't always. And if I see the client begin to exhibit any kind of anxiety responses, I immediately make them an observer. I say, okay, you're not in your body. You're up on the roof. You're up on the ceiling. You're looking down. You have no negative emotions. You can see everything. So that's what I do. So no one going through the regression process ever has to re-experience it in real time to heal from that experience. Just observing and understanding that it happened without having to relive it is all that is needed for healing.
Could you share with us one of your favorite stories that you have had with a client regarding contact?
Okay. Let me see now. Boy, there are an awful lot. There are an awful lot. But would you like me to tell you, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but about my little story about what happened to me in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Let's
Um,
do it.
okay. Well, as I mentioned, I was probably about 16 years old, and I was working in a summer stock theater, which was in Mount Rushmore State Park. It's called the Black Hills Playhouse. Very famous, wonderful, high quality professional stuff. Anyway, I was a young apprentice actor, and there was a woman in our company that I just found fascinating. Now, she seemed fantastically old and mature to me, but I'm going to guess that she wasn't even 30, but she was not only had been an actor, but she had a regular job where she sang, and she had a little band. She worked in the casinos, what have you, and then I just thought she was so exotic. So we started hanging out a lot together, and going into the town of Custer, was very circuitous mountain road. And I began to notice that every time, because she had a car, of course I didn't, but every time we drove into town, it seemed like we were being followed by lights in the trees. And, it was and one of the times it was so profound that not only did I see that they were lights, but I could see the shape of a craft and the fact that it was, hovering. And I just said, what the boop, and she said, oh, can you see that? Did you see that? Yes, I saw it. She said, well, and she admitted to me that in addition to her work as a singer, she was also working for the government. And every day, she'd get on a plane wrap plane at a plane wrap airport in Vegas and fly to probably Dreamland or Area 51. There was an underground base, and she would sit there with a bunch of other remote viewers, and they would communicate with ETs, specifically, again, the Zeta Reticulites. So of course she's told me this, and I was always a big ear, so I'm listening and I'm not arguing and I'm just accepting. Well, maybe, why wouldn't that be possible? Look what I just saw. So this goes on. And then she also conveyed to me, she's one of the reasons that I'm here is I thought I was sort of hiding out because I don't want to do this kind of work anymore. It's exhausting, and they're not letting me quit. They won't let me quit. Wow. So sometime within the next couple days after that, I was lounging at the snack bar, something I was really good at. And and what was so odd about this particular incident is that I think there were 400 people in the company, with the tech people and the cooks and a lot of people were in this, sort of cool camp with a theater, and no one was there, just me. And I see this car pull in. It's like a roundabout kind of to the theater, and it really looks like the classic Men in Black vehicle, but we didn't have I had no reference point for that then. I wouldn't have thought it. It just looked like a black town car, very suspicious, so this black town car pulls in, and it drives right up to where, my friend's quarters were. And I see these two, and I'm going to call them beings because of how I've been able to more fully remember it. But these people that came out, they were quite small, and they were dressed in like 1940s suits with like shoulder pads, very amusing. And the fedora, classic, the fedora hats, and their skin, well, it looked like plastic to me. The skin didn't look normal. And I was only about, maybe I was only about 35 feet away. So and the other strange thing is it looked like they were wearing weighted shoes, and their cuffs were really high, like high waters. So it was a very strange look there in 1973. So these beings went right into her, quarters. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to do something. And I don't know what I was going to do, like beat them with my tuna sandwich. I don't know what I was going to do, but I was just about to cross the quad there and bust in, and and they came out again, kind of slowly and ponderously, and then drove away really fast. So I waited a few minutes, and then I went over and I said, what the hell was that? She said, well, those were, that was just some of them. They're trying to talk to me, and I won't come back. I said, okay. And so those experiences left a very big impression on me. And of course, I had never again a moment's doubt that contact wasn't real. And so I think with the people that come see me, I always want them to think they can tell me anything. Because sometimes also we can have real experiences, but we can remember them with dream symbolism. So these are not always, recovering memories, it's not always as straightforward as you might think. And it all depends on the individual being able to interpret their own experience. And that's what I hopefully, thank God, I'm able to do in these various situations. So that's my little experience. But I have had um, I have been taken on some really phenomenal trips. I'll tell you that. I had one client who talked about um, being being put into an energy bath where and all, I mean, I've heard all kinds of things that happen, like on board craft, that there are motherships that are so massive that we can't even imagine. And I've had individuals talk about and these are, people who have been involved in some aspect of the uh, secret space program, which is a real thing. They
Yes.
and those people have had some very traumatic and bizarre experiences because some of them have been involved actually in combat situations. And I've heard about when you when you sign on to one of these kinds of trips, you take with you, I mean, not you take on board are 3 cloned bodies of yourself, so that if you're injured, you can have body parts replaced, and if necessary, your consciousness can even be put into a completely fresh cloned body. So I've heard some incredible stuff, and so and especially when you think about the fact that I've been doing this for a while, so maybe 20 years ago people wouldn't know as much about cloned bodies or DNA. So a lot of the things that I heard in the very beginning of doing this work now seem pretty futuristic. That even is, to me, more evidentiary that the information came from some other intelligence.
Are they giving us a message that we're supposed to convey?
Well, as I think I started to say a little while ago, um, I believe that there is a prime directive, like Gene Roddenberry's fabulous prime directive, where you couldn't interfere or contact a culture, and unless they had achieved a warp flight, which meant they could then easily contact other species. So I think that there is something like that in place, especially with the benevolent um, ETs, beings like the Sasani beings, like Bashar, who's channeled by Daryl Anka. And there are, I think, I don't think we're going to see, like a craft landing on the White House lawn, because that was tried and it didn't work, that type of approach. I think disclosure is, excuse me, I think disclosure is happening through experiencers, either with channeling or relating their experiences. I don't know if we're going to see a physicalization. I would hope that we would, but I think that contact is already happening all the time. And the messages are seemingly benevolent, that they want us to reach our true potential, that we have been part of a grand experiment.
Right.
Sometimes it's referred to as the grand experiment. And in truth, I've heard other individuals who are channeling their contacts. Earth is unique in the sense that we have, the 5 fingers of man. We have had a lot of DNA interventions. And also we have beings here existing together on the
Right.
earth that are so spiritually diverse.
We're going to break.
All right.
Lesley Mitchell-Clarke to the top of the hour.
You're
listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're clear. Good times. You're so impressive.
Oh, I don't know, man. I just enjoy this subject matter so much.
Oh,
It's such a pleasure to be able to talk to a like-minded person and also, reach so many people. And there's a lot of people out there who have these half memories and they're freaked out and they don't feel they feel there's something wrong with them. It's so I just want to send that message of healing and all the rest of it. And yeah.
It's a hard subject to swallow if you're on the outside looking in, that's for sure.
I think so. But I think it's becoming less so. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't, on a personal level, I don't like the way this whole disclosure thing, how they're trying to play it out.
Yeah.
I think it's contrived. I think that what they are trying to do is get away from answering the secrets that they have.
Yes. I agree completely, Dave. I agree completely. And I think it's bogus. I don't think anything is happening. It's frustrating and it's a big tease. There are two parallel space programs. And if I see that stupid Tic Tac one more time or Renee Elizondo, I'm going to fucking puke. Oh, we're not on the air. Are we on the air? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. I was not expecting that.
Well, that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Oh my God.
Oh.
That came out so. That's not supposed to come out of your pretty little mouth.
I'm sorry. It just my filter is down. It's late for me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you are poetic. Oh, that was amazing. Captain K-Rod, how are you? You'll have to check back about a minute. If you scroll back about a minute or 2 minutes, you'll hear what we were laughing at. I have to tell you that I would agree with what you're saying. And I know it sounds like semantics, and I bring it up all the time with our audience, and I know they'll roll their eyes when I say this. But when they started playing the games of changing UFO to UAP and then getting into instead of ETs or extraterrestrials or aliens getting into NHI, when they started taking control of the acronyms, I knew we were in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you've been in the press long enough. It goes back to the Stars Academy when they held their first press conference with no press there.
That's right.
I mean, you've worked in media long enough to somebody please tell me how you have a pressless press conference. Been YouTubing. Welcome to SOR Chat. And it just kind of went from there. And I've literally lost my luster for the UFO subject. We cover it a lot, but I've lost my luster for it. It's not as enjoyable as it was. Brian Morgan, how you doing? Shadow Feather, nice to see you. And thank you to Benno, Candace, Area 54, T-Bone for the super chats. Thank you, T-Bone, for the membership. Here we go, everybody. All right, we are into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. I always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Yes, the blue one. Don't go to the red one. Don't go to the white ones. Don't go to the one with the big red dot on it because you can't stand there. Earth is where you want to be when you're listening to this. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, we have her until the top of the hour. Let's just get right into it. Let's just do it. What the hell? Audience questions. You ready, Lesley?
I am so ready.
All right. We're going to start off with Jules here. What would our lovely Lesley Mitchell-Clarke say to someone who's been religiously conditioned that hypnosis is dangerous because it leaves you open for meddling with your mind or demons?
Well, this is a common misunderstanding. And the only thing that we can do is try to provide to demystify it. I don't think stage hypnosis helps with the therapeutic aspects of hypnosis. But the one thing that I always tell people is it's important to remember that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And this is true. I'm just a guide. Even if we're in the depth of a session, someone can pull themselves out. It's just like coming out of a daydream. And I always tell them that if you become uncomfortable at any point, I don't expect it, but if it happens, not a big deal. You just pull yourself out of trance and everything will be fine because you are in charge. I think, ignorance is a dangerous thing, and not that ignorance about hypnosis is isolated to like the American South or something. I mean, I answer these questions all the time. Hypnosis is simply a relaxation technique where the subject is always in charge, and because of relaxation, we're able to access through certain techniques, experiences that normally are hidden in the subconscious mind. But there is no real such thing as the Manchurian Candidate syndrome, where a hypnotherapist can come in and make you do anything against your moral spine. Now, I am not saying that there haven't been bizarre programs like, Dave, you'll tell me, what was the name of that up in Montreal? They were doing at University of Montreal. Anyway, there have been experimental programs that the government was conducting, both the Canadian government and the US government, and they were using, hallucinogenics and certain bizarre hypnosis techniques. So I'm not saying that hypnosis hasn't been perverted, but hypnotherapy and even every hypnotist who is available to help you just do things like lose weight or quit smoking. We have a guild. We are ethical, moral people bound by the Hippocratic Oath. We have a scope of treatment that we can't go beyond. And I think that the risk of any kind of mind meddling is fairly non-existent.
Moving on to our next question. Let's go to Chaz here. Is it more abductions or more willing to discuss the subject and find ways to report it that's going on right now?
I think I think there has always been a ridiculously high rate of abductions. I'm not sure there are more abductions. I would tend to say that people are becoming more introspective about the possibility of these encounters of high strangeness. And our entertainment industry helps with that. I mean, it's not always that therapeutic, but it does get people thinking, and the possibility. And I think these days they've done some kind of poll, and certainly most people on our planet believe that there has been, and there is ongoing extraterrestrial contact. So um, the many programs, the many documentary type programs that are on that explore these topics and present witnesses in a non ridiculing way, I think this all helps individuals to look honestly at their own experiences, and then if they wish to, have the courage to report it or to speak to someone or to share it online. With there are any number of experiencer groups where people can find a forum to just chat about their experiences. There don't have to be therapists involved. Some people, by the way, don't have amnesia. They remember everything. So I think there is a pretty vibrant community. And if any of the, recent ufology things that I've gone to, and Dave, you will get a chance to really see what a vibrant and diverse cross section there is of people who are interested in this subject matter. The last really big one I went to and was speaking at was in Los Angeles. The consciousness expo. Is that it?
Right.
Yeah, and it was packed to the brim with every kind of person you could imagine. So that was extremely heartwarming. So yes, I would say that, and a few years ago, we didn't have any conferences like that. This is all relatively new. So yes, indeed, there is more acceptance and therefore more reporting, and therefore more writing and more engaging and more conference attending and more support groups. It's all happening.
Let's move on to Julie here, who is asking, what was your first experience? You kind of answered that with your story, did you not?
Yes, I think I absolutely did
Okay.
answer that, but I will say that there are things that I haven't explored even in myself. And there were some very interesting things that happened in my grandmother's garden when I was very little, where there was I had an invisible friend, but she was actually quite visible to me. And now I am wondering, in retrospect, if that wasn't a type of masking, or the kind of thing that ETs will do to make you more comfortable when you're a child. They will assume a childlike visage. So I'm sure there's more there, and I'll get to it at some point. But I think you heard the most profound one already tonight.
Beautiful. All right. Let's go over to T-Bone. When a client has an ET story, or let me reread this. Hold on. When with a client, has an ET told you to stop what you're doing?
No, never. I tell you, there have been times where I have felt presences in my treatment space. And, when there is typically when there's a kind of a discarnate entity or a ghost presence. They're trying to take energy out of the environment so everything will get cold, or there'll be cold spots. Well, the opposite happens when ETs show up. They are creating energy, and so they're very interested in what I'm doing and the communication process. As I said, I think really the future of the biggest amount of information is going to be through contactees. I think that's the whole purpose. Being able to channel information to a large portion of our society, positive information that will change the way we think about things. So I have never heard anything negative about what I am doing. I have only had positive experiences. And now, I really cleanse my space too. I should say that, I I work with I do some dowsing. I certainly use sage and other protective smudging things, and I use prayer and meditation. And the space where I work is like a little spiritual fortress. So people, they can feel very safe when they're working with me. And I think somehow that's appreciated. But no, I've never been discouraged. I've only been encouraged.
All right. Are you ready for another one?
Sure.
Sandra on Vancouver Island is asking, do you think ETs are artificial intelligence?
Oh boy. And that, you know what, Sandra, that is the big question of the day. Now what I will say is there are many, many accounts that I have heard from the various people I've worked with that there are ETs that choose to project themselves like a hologram instead of actually engaging in space travel. There are sophisticated beings who just think it's too hard on their bodies, and so they use projection techniques, but they're not actually physically there. Now, if you take that to another level, I suppose, why couldn't there be self-aware beings, artificially intelligent beings, self-aware, who can use those projection techniques, whether they're in a computer or in a database or a data stick? So I would be open to that, but I have never understood it in that way. And that's just maybe because the people that have had the actual experiences haven't understood it in that way. And what I would expect, Sandra, is I'm going to see a lot more of this kind of gray area stuff, that's hard for us to define in the future, in the near future.
Okay, let's move on to another question here. Let's go to United, who is asking, would you say, Lesley, that it's more than likely that an experiencer or abductee's immediate family is also abducted or contacted, or is that something more rare or even random?
I think that it happens all the time. I think that familial groups are taken, siblings are taken. I have heard so many stories that reflect that. I can tell you one very quick story. I was working with an individual who was a university professor. And by the way, I have a preponderance of educators who are experiencers. Isn't that funny? If I would have to say, what's the number one profession that the people you see do, it would have to be educators. Anyway, this gentleman, he only remembered a little bit of this experience. So what I'm going to tell you is his recovered memory. So he was returning with his family from a summer holiday in Quebec. And this was a while ago. They had a lot of kids and they had a station wagon. Nobody had any seat belts. You know, it's like back when I was a kid, right? And so they were driving and driving. And then all of a sudden, the father seemed to be like in a comatose state. I mean, he wasn't reacting. And he turned off onto a dirt road, not an indicated road, just a little backwoods, Quebec road, starts driving down this road. And then my client said, and he said, now this didn't make any sense to me, but then I saw a whole lot of Cub Scouts riding on their bikes next to our car. Now it's the middle of the night. Okay. So this is a screen memory. This was some sort of cloaking. So this is what my friend saw these, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts rather, riding their little bikes beside them, sort of leading them in. And then the father stopped the car. And I believe this is very much like Betty and Barney Hill, that they saw that these were grays. And they were standing outside of a craft that was stopped, but was kind of levitating. And at that point, the ETs started transporting the children, 4 or 5 children, and levitating them and taking them out through the windows. And the kids weren't really out. Some of the kids were out, some were screaming. It was horrific. And the children were levitated right into the craft and into examining rooms. And my client said he could see his brother on the examining table across from him, his older brother. And his older brother appeared to be paralyzed, but was crying. So this was a hugely traumatic event, which happened to the entire family. I don't think he saw what happened to the parents, but they were also taken aboard. And then there's a big gray period where he can't remember anything, but he said that when he did start to come to consciousness, like the sun was coming up, so 3 hours, 4 hours were just missing. And the family never spoke about it, ever. So, yeah. So, yeah, the family group thing, I hear about it all the time. And sometimes when they take, a few siblings, it seems like they're looking for the one that has the most psychic ability. I've heard that before. They said, actually, Randy Kramer told me as a child he was taken. And, his brother was there, must have been. And they just, the ETs just rejected his brother, saying, no, this isn't going to work. He doesn't have what it takes. So yeah, there's a lot of familial involvement, particularly in, the before times where the Zeta Reticulites were still very involved.
Let's get to another question here for you. T-Bone is asking, have you kept a count on the different types of ETs your clients have talked about? If so, how many?
Oh my goodness, there are so many. I go into that in depth in my book, which is called Intersections: A True Story of Extraterrestrial Contact. I did mention a number of the ETs, but we have, what I would call Lyrans, we have Pleiadians, We have beings that are very closely related to us, the Sasani beings. There are reptilians, but not all the reptilians are bad. There are all different kinds. We even apparently have contractual agreements with some reptilian groups with our, our secret space program. There are beings that are aquatic, that are along the lines of, mermaids and mermen. There are aquatic beings. I have heard about tiny short beings that are kind of along the lines of hobbits. I've heard of that. Boy, what have I left out? There, just about anything you can imagine, I have certainly heard about. And there are beings that I'm not sure what to call them, because they have very rough brown skin, but there are beings that they don't like to be seen, and they're often involved in physical examinations because they are apparently the genealogical genetic experts of our corner of the universe. And they will often wear dark robes like priests, like old friars. And I'm sure you've heard of this before, but I've had people as children call them the brown doctors. So they definitely have some rough brown skin, although I don't know if they're reptilian, because I can never get anybody to get a really good look at them. They do not like to be seen because they don't want to frighten us, pretty much. They don't want to frighten us. But I would have to say I've heard about 20, 30 different species, at least. That's probably conservative. But yeah.
One more question for you tonight. Are the reptilian aliens that this person saw when they were 8 years old, were they red naturally or something like that? Red in color, that is.
There is a group of reptilians that tend to be red in color. And my friend Randy Kramer identified them for me because one of my clients was having experiences with them, but not negative experiences. Apparently, the red-toned reptilian beings are ancient and have been engaging with humans in positive ways for many, many years. And they regularly engage with our military and what have you. They are considered allies. So yes, there is, in answer to your question, I have absolutely heard about I don't know if I'd use the term benevolent, but a non-hostile branch of the reptilian species that tend to be red in color. They've been seen a lot in the Southwest. They tend to like to be in hot areas. I guess it probably is similar to their planet, I speculate. So, yes.
That's so exciting. We got about 40 seconds left with you tonight, Lesley. Thank you so much.
Oh.
And could you please tell everybody where they could find your book and more information on you?
Absolutely. My book, Intersections, A True Story of Extraterrestrial Contact, you can get that on any Amazon, anywhere. I think it's on audiobook too, and also on Kobo and that kind of thing. So there's that. And I wanted to also mention that I work remotely. I work with individuals, experiencers all over the world, and we use Zoom, and it works really, really well. So if you're far away from me, I'm in Toronto, I could always work with you or chat with you. So you can reach me 416-454-8041. Secure line.
Hour 3 is next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Another gem that's flown on by, my friend.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
I love it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you too. We're still standing, man. We're still here.
All
Believe
right.
it or not.
Take care, my friend. I love you.
You too,
Go get
buddy.
some sleep.
Love you too. Happy
Bye-bye.
New Year. Talk to you soon.
See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye. The unknown, you're in Sudbury. Are you a blueberry bulldog? Are you a blueberry bulldog? My son just got a blueberry bulldog jersey for Christmas. I'll be right back. All right. Just waiting for Robin to get here. Wonder where she is. She'll be here in a minute. You have a good night? You enjoy that? There she is. Let's bring her in. Hi, Robin.
Hey, sweetheart. How are you?
Your hair looks great tonight.
Oh, thank you. Once in a while it works. Not very often.
I know that feeling.
When it's wet, it is nothing but ringlets. So when it dries, it just does whatever.
I hear you there. Flat 6, how you doing? Emperor Penguin, thank you very much. Nice to see you. All right. Swamp Dweller will be, it's a little long at about 5.5 minutes, okay?
Awesome.
And then we'll get right to you.
Sounds good. I'm here.
Yay. All right. Thank you tonight to T-Bone with a super chat, T-Bone with a gifted membership, Area 54, Candace, and Benno. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag.
Shop now at our store.
All right, here we go, Robin. We are into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Wiseacre. Wiseacre is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
I've lived my whole life, almost 30 years now, in Arkansas. Being raised a son of the South, it should go without saying that I spent a considerable amount of time in our state's vast woodlands, hunting, camping, and etc. So I never had any fear of the unknown depths of the forest, or whatever woodland critters reside there, until about 4 years ago. When I was a child, my parents moved us from a small town of Poyen out to the small town about 40 miles south of Little Rock. Both of my parents worked full-time jobs in order to pay off our new house, and had a significant swath of land bordering my grandfather's land. So through much of my early childhood, and after school later on, I would go and spend time with my grandpa until my parents got home. He was a sweet old man, kind of an old hippie. About once a week, he would ask me to go on a walk with him through the forest, and in time, before I had cable or Xbox, I would totally gladly agree to go. Anything to get me out of the house and my own boredom. Every walk was the same, about a half-mile trip down a well-worked path, past a large pit at the edge of the tree line he would burn trash in, through some sandy marsh that was dry almost year-round, and eventually to a large oak tree with a hollowed knot growing on it about chest high. When we got there, he would reach into his jacket pocket and pull out 3 or 4 eggs he would leave in the hollow. The first time I asked him why he did this, he told me that before there was a church on every corner, people used to live and die and pray in the forest. That the forest was more than just trees and squirrels, and that it looked after people. All of this sounded like religious nonsense to me. I had already had several headbutting arguments with my parents at this point over religion, and them being devout Baptists, and I putting my faith more in a good Remington than some man in the clouds, I honestly never paid much attention to it after that. I still accompanied him on his walks, and just thought of him as a kooky old man who dropped too much acid in the 70s. Until about 4 years ago, when he died. He left me his house and his land, and I moved in right quick, eager to make it out of the shitty little apartment I had ended up in some 40 miles away. My parents had split up and both moved to different states by then, so it was comforting on some level to go back to a place where I spent so much of my early life. In about a week's time after moving in, I had a good bit of trash to burn. Some of my stuff, but mostly my grandpa's old junk he never got around to tossing out. It was mid-autumn by this point, but still way too hot during the day to have a fire, so I waited till about dusk, grabbed the last few bags of trash and some freezer-burned food, and made my way to the pit. I had the fire blazing after a couple of minutes. The last slivers of sunlight had dropped below the forest, making the only light the tall, flickering flames dancing off the trees around me. I sat down on an old stump and lit a cigarette as I watched the flames. I was so deeply enthralled in the orange and red dance I had forgotten to throw the last load of trash in the pit. So I stood and kicked the 2 bags into the flame and began unwrapping all the freezer-burned ground beef, peas, and steaks, throwing their contents into the trees and the plastic into the flames. It wasn't until I threw the last steak, a big frosty T-bone, beside a corpse of smooth white bark birch trees, that something happened. I heard something low and rumbling. Not quite a growl, but far from being a comforting sound. Then one of the branches of one of the smaller birches began to bend, almost like it was falling in slow motion. Then, it extended out and I saw from the firelight with horror that what I had previously thought were long little branches were gnarled, impossibly long fingers ending in savage points. They sunk into the cold meat, and something half stepped out of the cover of the trees. It was hunched down and thin, but I could tell it would be a good foot over my head. It looked at me the whole time. It slowly dragged the meat over to itself. Its eyes reflected no light, and I couldn't make out any facial characteristics except a mouth too wide for its head, filled with canines. It brought the steak to its mouth, and with a sickening crunch ripped a piece off. I didn't see much after that. I guess I had been standing and slowly backing away, because the next clear thought I had was when I was sprinting back to the house where I bolted the door and loaded my shotgun. I sat up all night, my head swimming with questions. Grandpa had never said anything about a creature living in the woods, but come morning I was convinced that's why he left those eggs out every week. A few days later, when I had the nerve to step foot back into the forest, I went with a pocket full of eggs and placed them in the hollow just like he used to do. I haven't seen or heard anything like what happened that night 4 years ago. Yet, once a week, every week, I'll make a trip into the forest and leave my offering. Yet to this day, I have not once stepped anywhere near the tree line after dark.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Lots of them to choose from. Your only decision is which one are you going to listen to after this show. From the swamp to the forest where Robin Haynes is searching for Bigfoot, let's get right to it.
Robin Haynes walks soft where the tall trees sway. She hears Bigfoot whisper what the wind won't say. Through the veil of the forest where the wild man plays. The Bigfoot psychic talks to Sasquatch every day. Only on Spaced Out Radio's Cryptic Q&A.
There she is, Robin Haynes. It is always a pleasure to have you back on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
It is good to see you. Thank you.
Are you staying warm over there? It's freezing everywhere.
I would say it is a very nice. Let me check the temperature here right now. Hold on. Let me update it. It is a very nice minus 12 degrees Celsius or 11 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no wind. So it's a nice brisk cold. You might need a hoodie,
Yeah.
maybe a jacket at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you staying warm?
It's not too bad. I mean, it gets really, really cold and then it goes straight up and it warms up to about, 60 degrees and then it drops. I'm used to Michigan, so this isn't even weather yet over here in South Carolina for me to put a coat on. But it's definitely up and down. And now we've got a cold front coming in, possible snow. So it's like, it'll be nice. I wouldn't mind a few flakes here and there. I don't want, the blizzard, but I'm not going to lie. I kind of miss the snow.
I kind of like it.
I don't know. I did my time in, the northern cold. So, because I was in Michigan. And so I did my time in it, but I would like just a little bit of snow in the winter. I miss it. I like my falls. I like that little bit of snow. I don't need to have a blizzard because people can't drive. It's like they can live in it their whole lives and they still can't figure out how to drive.
Well, the further south you go, the less opportunity there is for driving in winter conditions.
Oh, I know. But it was like in Michigan. Every year it was like everybody was astounded that they had to drive in snow. It's like, you're in Michigan. So, yeah, and down here when we do get occasionally a few flakes, everybody goes into panic mode. First year I was here, they all went crazy. Like we had snow here. People were crashing into each other like bumper cars. They're at the store fighting each other for a loaf of bread. It was hysterical. It was like apocalyptic type stuff. And I just sat there and laughed.
It's normally what I do. Normally what I do.
Oh, goodness. So how is everybody tonight?
It is good. It feels like a monster type night. It
Yeah.
really does. It's very dark and dreary out here with the heavy clouds that we've been getting the last couple of days. Haven't been able to see the northern lights at all. I'm a little disappointed in that. That's one of the benefits I like to brag about living up north in British Columbia, where I do, is that I do get to brag about the northern lights. And I don't get to do that right now. Everybody else does because it's cloudy here. It's never cloudy here in the winter unless it's snowing.
Yeah, well, we just got done with that huge, massive solar storm. So everybody hang on to your butts because it's supposed to be the strongest one that we've ever had, to the point where they're concerned about radiation. So everybody's a little bit wonky right now. Just everybody going into it, no, it's not you. It will pass. Just stay calm and ride it out.
I would say that you're right on that. It played a little havoc with our audio on the previous show.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of an issue there. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's it's winter. Anything can happen.
Yep.
I want
Exactly.
you to tell us a monster story that you've never told us before.
A monster story. I think I've told you guys all of them. I told you when I got bluff charged in Texas, didn't I? I think I've told that one before. I was with a friend and he took me to what he wanted to be a research site. And I told him when we got there, I thought it was a bad idea. I said, there's such bad energy around here. I don't think you should be here. Oh, no, I'm going to take you to the berry bushes. I said, what's the berry bushes? He said, there's all these bushes and they're berries, and the Sasquatch go back there and they eat the berries. This was an 100-acre abandoned property of somebody he knew. And this is in the lower part of Texas. And he had been going out there, but he had a lot of strange things going on. And it backed up against thousands of acres of a natural wildlife refuge center that was off limits to the public. So the whole thing was already set up as a dismal failure. We drove in there, and there were 3 abandoned houses, and it looked like people literally left in the middle of the night. The people that owned it had bought the land like that. They just never did anything with it. They just left it exactly how it was when they got it. It was houses that windows were kicked out of. There were 3 of them in a little cluster. Antiques sitting in the houses getting ruined. There was a deer skull laying on the front, or not deer, but a goat skull laying on the front porch, which was really odd. Antique cars in the yard. And what was really weird is there were expensive kids' toys all over. Okay, so from one parent to another, if you're going to move, you may leave your things. You don't ever leave your kids' things. Of all things, you're not going to leave your children's toys. Trampolines, swing sets, bikes, all kinds of things. And everything just looked like somebody left in the middle of the night. And we went out there and we were walking around, and there was a post that was by a garden, and it had wild blueberries growing on it. And I walked by this post. There was nothing on the top of the post. Walked by it a few minutes later, there were blueberries on it. And I thought, okay, we've got somebody moving around here. Footprints all over the place. And this antique sewing machine had been thrown out in the middle of the yard that was worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was like, somebody left in the middle of the night. This wasn't they moved out. They ran out. So we went back to this U-shaped area where these berry bushes were at. We pulled in. It was horseshoe shaped. We pulled into the opening of it, and there was tree stands and giant corn feeders for the deer. You know, all hunters know you don't leave that stuff. It's expensive. Like, you just don't walk away and leave it there. And he said, this is where all the Sasquatch come back here. He said, I find footprints all over the place. One day there's berries, the next day it's all picked clean. I'm looking at the ground, and there are skulls and bones from dead animals everywhere. And I said, you just brought, and we had his grandchildren, 3 tiny grandchildren with us. Or no, 2 grandchildren with us. And I was like, you just brought your grandkids to a killing field. Like, literally, this is their dining room table, and you brought these kids there. And the kids are now running all around. They don't know anything's wrong. They saw a tree stand. They run halfway down to this horseshoe-shaped area. They run up the tree stand. And my friend is standing by his pickup truck, which is at the opening of it. He's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Right as we say this, we hear everything coming in from all sides. And it's walking in, and it's big, and it's heavy, and they're mind speaking. So I went going down. I mean, I'm a mom first. So I go running down over by where these kids are in the tree stand. And I'm like, kids, you know what? I need you to come down. We're going to go with your grandpa. We're going to go get ice cream. Let's go do this. And this giant male steps out at the very end of the horseshoe and steps out. And he says, leave the kids. And I said, I'm not leaving the kids. And he's mind speaking. And the kids now can see, because they're up high enough in this tree stand, they're seeing all these things coming in from all 3 sides. So they're freaked out. They don't want to come down. They're scared to death. And they said, leave the kids or you'll be killed. So I'm trying to figure out the best course of action with this to get these kids out of here. So what do? I walk towards this thing, and he was huge. I walked towards him so that I'm past where the kids are at in the tree stand. And I said, I'm not leaving. He says, you'll leave or you'll die. Leave the children. And I'm like, I'm not leaving these kids. Earthkeeper says I can walk where I want to walk. This is where I choose to walk. I'm not moving. And I'm standing there. And I'm standing next to this palmetto bush that literally comes up to the bottom of my rib cage. Kids are freaking out. I'm trying to make light of it. I'm going, oh, you guys are just being silly old Sasquatch. They just are curious because they like you so much. You know, it's fine. Come on down from the tree stand. And the kids are terrified. This thing bluff charges me. All you can feel is the ground shake. He bluff charges me. I'm worried about the kids. So I stand my ground, which is absolutely stupid. I'm lucky I'm not dead. I stand my ground. I'm halfway between these kids and this thing because I had walked towards it. And it bluff charged me. It came so close to me. It blew the hair off my shoulders, leveled the bushes to the ground, like literally leveled this palmetto bush. The kids had started coming down the tree stand. It terrified them. They ran straight back up of it. They're crying. They're screaming. They don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, look at those silly old Sasquatch. They're just playing games, and it's not a big deal. They just want to play. But we're going to go get ice cream. So you guys need to come down. Like, these kids were under 10. So I'm like trying to make light of it. I cannot react to anything going on. I see a bunch of them coming in off to my left. I see some coming into, and they're in physical form. Some of them coming in from my right. And the big male was jet black. And after he bluff charged me, he went and he circled back around and he went back down towards the end of that horseshoe. And he kept saying, leave or die. So I'm trying to joke with these kids that everything's perfectly fine. I get them to come down to the tree stand. Their grandfather's freaking out. He has like lost his mind because all of this is transpiring. He doesn't know what to do. And I'm talking to him. And he's like, what do I do? What do I do? I said, get in the truck, open the doors, and start the truck. And he's like, but what about you guys? I said, just get in the damn truck. So he gets in the truck, he starts it, he opens the door. I talk to the kids, they get down from the tree stand, and I'm standing there anyway. Because if I move, I'm afraid they're going to come up and try to grab these kids. Not that I could stop them anyway, you know. And so the kids come down, and I'm like, oh, you guys go run over in the truck with Grandpa, get in the truck, you know, I'll be there in a minute. I'm just talking to our friends, you know. And so they get back there, and he's going, come on, come on. And I'm like, just leave my door open. Lock the rest of the doors, get the kids in the truck. So he gets the kids in the truck, he locks the doors, he leaves mine open, and the truck's running. And I'm backing up. As I'm backing up, this thing is moving forward. And I was like, I am not turning my back. So I back up all the way to the truck. I get in the cab, and I'm like, just get out of here. So I slam the door. He hits the gas to go out. This thing comes up and hits the back end of the truck and sends it going sideways. And tries to get in the back of the truck. And we got out of there, and it chased us not very far before it stopped. But I mean, when you're out with these things, be aware of where you're at, you know, what's going on. If you're seeing bones all over the place, you're in a killing field. That is where they eat. Do not mess with them, you know, and just be mindful of where you're at, because some of these things don't play. But I think that was the worst monster one, where they actually acted like that. He was dead serious. Like, he come by me and my hair just blew off my shoulder. That bush got leveled.
That is incredible.
Yeah. I was like,
how do you maintain your focus through stuff like that?
The kids were there. My primary focus was, no matter what happened, if I was going out of there dead or alive, those kids were getting out of there. I am a mom before I'm anything else. And my entire being was focused on those kids. And when I walked towards him, I'm not going to lie, I was like scared shitless, you know, but I walked towards him anyway, because my only thing was, if he's coming after somebody, I want to be in front of those kids. That was my goal, was to get myself between the kids and him. Not that and again, stupidity on my part, nothing I can do. But it was like, there may be nothing I can do, or die trying. You know, I'm doing the energy work, which pushed him back. He didn't like it at all. The ones that were coming in from the left side did not like it. They were bad. Anything low frequency does not like the energy when it's positive energy. And I've like got these kids bubbled, and I'm bubbled, but we're in the third dimension. It works better in the astral. And, you know, I was just like, I think he was surprised because I stood my ground. And I know he had to be thinking, you stupid little human. Like, really, you know, there's nothing I can do to stop him if he's going to shred me. But it was just a matter of, the grandfather didn't know what to do. He just stood back by the truck, and his mouth dropped open as he's watching this all unfold, because he never thought it would go down that way. He didn't know what to do. And he kept saying, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, shut up and just stay there by the truck. Get ready to start the truck. So he got into the truck and was trying to get it started. And while he was starting the truck, this thing was more focused on tearing me to shreds. And the only thing it wanted were those kids. And I don't even know that it would have killed the kids. I think it, you know, but either way, the kids were going to stay. That was, you know, that was its point, was the kids were going to stay. And we've got them coming in from three sides. So I'm like trying to take myself out of the situation of what's going on either side of me. And I was staying focused on him. And he was like mind speaking with me. And he would mind speak with me, and I would just give it right back. And he's like, you will leave now. And I'm like, no, Earthkeeper says I can walk where I want to walk, and this is where I choose to walk. And I'm thinking this whole thing is a bluff, because he can kill me in a minute. And I think he was surprised that I was taking that stand. And then I'm trying to stay calm and laugh for these kids' sake, because I didn't want them scared. Because if they're scared, they're not ever coming down out of that tree. And they could have grabbed hold of that tree stand and sent those kids flying in a second. So it was a really bad situation. We were very blessed that it went the way it did. You know, like grace of God type stuff. But yeah, it was definitely, when he came flying at me, it was.
Robin, thank you for that great story. We'll continue with Robin Haynes in the next half hour.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that whole property, I think the reason nobody was living on it, from the looks of the houses, there were 3 houses all in this little cluster together, and they got ran out of there. There is no way I will ever believe they didn't get ran out of there, because the stuff that was left there was expensive. We're talking collector cars, and it looked like something went and ransacked the entire inside of these houses. There was like dead goat skulls on the porch, and like I said, you may leave your things, but a parent doesn't leave things that are important to their kids. And there was some really expensive toys there, things that you would I know I would never have left for my kids, and then their own things and antiques. And I was like, what went on here? The whole place was creepy. It just looked like it had been ambushed, but it was backed up against this protected land. Nobody could go back there to hunt. It was a wildlife refuge. So all the food that they wanted was right there. And there's thousands of acres of it. And then this property sat towards the front of it. And the people that bought it, they had bought it like, I don't know how many years beforehand, but never used it. They just bought it at an auction. It was locked with a gate. They said they had it because they had 2 or 3 horses that they just wanted to throw out on the land because they had rescued these horses. And the horses were there. They didn't bother the horses. Those horses were perfectly fine. But they said they just cut the horses loose out there. They were wild out there. And I think there was like 2 or 3 of them. And horses were perfectly fine. They didn't bother the horses at all, but that's all they bought it for. They had rescued these horses and thrown it out on the land, figured it was safe, but nobody ever went out there except my friend went out there. He had met this person at the bank and was telling him that he did research, for Sasquatch. And they said, we got all this land if you want to go poke around out there for fun. So they let him go out there. But he had problems every single time. He called me one night. He was out there with his girlfriend and they had a campfire and they got ambushed again out there because he didn't learn the first time. And he called me at home and I was doing like astral projection there to try to protect him. And it was hysterical because he was like, I saw you there. And he described everything I was wearing. Everything was hysterical. But after that particular night, he never went back.
Wow, that's nothing creepy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that whole astral projection thing, did what I needed to do there, because they cut him off from his truck. He got in the truck and took off, and one got in the back of the truck and was pounding on the cab. And he was like trying to do donuts and fishtails all over to get out of there, and it finally knocked it out of the back of the truck. He never went back. I said, why did you go back the second time? They tried to kill your grandkids. I mean, I don't know if they would have killed them. They were definitely going to keep them. I said, we could have got killed the first time. Why would you be dumb enough? He said, well, I didn't go back where the berry bushes are at. I went to the front of it. I said, why would you be there at all? Like, if ignorance was bliss, you'd be getting an award. Like, nobody should be there. Like, these things have that as their territory. They're used to nobody being there. Let them have it. And he never went back after that.
Don't blame him.
No, it was crazy. I think that was the worst area that I had gone into as far as, I mean, I've been out there with aggressive ones before, but those things, they were not playing games at all. He was stupid to even go the second time.
Okay, we got about 90 seconds to go here.
Excellent. Excellent.
So much fun.
Yeah. And with this solar storm, everybody be on your toes because it's affecting everything. It's not necessarily making them aggressive, but it is, everybody's a little wonky right now.
All right. We got about a minute. Thank you to Benno. Ennis, how are you? Area 54, T-Bone. Thank you for the super chat. And thank you as well for gifting a membership. Did I miss anybody? No, I did not. If you haven't given us a thumbs up yet, why not? This is free. Give us a thumbs up. We deserve at least that tonight.
If nothing, I have to say this, if nothing else, If anybody goes back and sees the old shows, the one with the gal from Loaf's Pass was tremendous.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was really good. I recommend everybody going back and watching it multiple times.
She's just so filled with information. All I got to do is say hi. She starts going. All right,
Yeah.
hold on, here we go. Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate you tuning us on in as we get to Robin Haynes and the Cryptid Q&A. Let's get her in here momentarily. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. And follow us on social media. On X at Spaced Out Radio. On Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. And on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Robin Haynes, I have a question for you. Hold on. There we go. I have a question for you.
Sure.
In my intrepid journalism of Bigfoot knowledge, is there a difference between the sightings that happen here and the sightings that happen in different countries or continents of the world?
There's a cultural difference. You're talking about with them, they're, it's just like we have very different cultures. So do they. Everybody calls them, oh, this is, number one or number two or different kinds. It's a cultural thing, but there isn't a ton of difference, but they adapt to what culture they're living in. So it is going to have subtle changes with them. The ones that are up in the mountains behave a little bit different than the one are at the bottom of the mountains. I mean, they're up there. They are more uncivilized. They're more wild. They don't have to deal with us, so they act a little bit differently. So the changes that you're going to see are not so much their body chemistry or even their looks, because they're all individualized. They all look different. They really do. But it's more because of the culture and where they're at. They adapt excessively well. So whatever they have to deal with in the different locations, they're going to adapt to. And again, you get the ones that are out in the open land, like some of the ones in Alaska. There's such a vast area of nothingness there that they can literally hide out in. They're not used to having to deal with us. So you can get some that are a little bit more aggressive. Or the flip of that coin is they don't know what to do with us and they just get away. So you have your changes that way. The physical changes that you're going to have are just like, from us to like going to China. There might be some slight appearance changes, whether it be the eyes, hair, that kind of thing. But overall, they're basically all the same. It's what they are exposed to where they're living at as far as how it changes their personalities.
Is there a difference in the way the creature looks, say from the North American Sasquatch to, say, the Yowie in Australia?
Well, you know what? I know a lot of people, there's a big difference in opinion on this. Some people say, well, if you go to this area, you're going to see the ones more with the conial heads. Realize that these things travel. They do not migrate. Take that off the table. But they do travel. They do go through portals. They shift all around. They're all individualized. There's no two that are alike. And from the people that I've spoken with, from what I've seen myself, there really isn't a big difference. It is not where they're located. It's that they're all different. They're as individualized in looks as we are. The clan I had in Michigan, I had some with conial heads. I also had some that were the size of a regular human and had a regular human looking head, that there was nothing on that head that looked like a Sasquatch other than it was covered in hair. So and that's my own opinion, but I just think that they're very diverse in their looks. I do know that some of the people that talk about the ones in Florida say that they tend to have a little bit more conial head and look a little bit more apish. But again, I don't think that it has to do with where they're at. It's just like, again, we have people that go to China, and the people in China look a little bit different. You know, but they merge everywhere.
What about ones like the Yeti, which, you know, everybody in the 70s called it the abominable snowman?
Yeah.
Big white guy. I mean, footprints have been seen even at Everest Base Camp.
I think they tend to be a little bit bigger there. They've got a little bit more open land. It's, you know what I'm saying? They're more robust. They're moving up and down mountains. They're doing all of these things. And I think that changes their body a little bit more, where they're a little bit broader. Now, I've been up and stood in front of a 14-footer in Michigan. Doesn't mean they're not big ones here, but you tend to see more of the bigger ones, I think, when it comes to the Yetis and that kind of thing. So I guess there's a little bit of a change, but not as much as people seem to think.
And what about aggression?
I only saw the one in Russia. When I was there and I spoke in Siberia, there was a black one that was found. We had a ton of people that were going to this cave system, and we had film crews and everything. And there was a black male that kept following us. And he honestly didn't look all that big. I mean, he was like 6-7 foot, obviously, but he was not like massive like you would think. And the footprints that I saw in that cave were not any different than what I would have seen in Michigan or what I've seen in South Carolina. Now, you get into Hawaii, and of course, you have the Hawaiians. They have the smaller version of a Sasquatch. They're still there. Oren-Pendik is a relative to them. And not that they're there, but I'm just saying, you know, the Oren-Pendik is not as big. So in that case, it would be more, you know, the location and what they have. But as far as, you know, your mentality goes, I think the ones in the southern areas seem a little bit more, the ones that I've encountered anyway, seem a little bit more, they get agitated easier. They're more uncivilized, just like the ones in the mountains.
Right.
But again, you know, they've all got different personalities. They all look different. But it's more the culture, I think. And when I say culture, guys, I mean, you know, just like I said, you go to Mexico, people look more Mexican than they do in, per se, you know, Ohio. Or if you go to Japan or you go to China. But other than that, I mean, they're pretty much the same laws and rules they deal with. Each clan leader is going to be in charge of the laws for that clan, but they have the overall blanket of rules that cover all of them that they have to live by. And that's not going to change where they go. But when you get the ones that are on more of the outskirts and there's less people, they are less civilized and they are less tolerant of us because we're not there. They don't have to deal with us. They don't want us there. They are used to living their life more as a hermit lifestyle without all of the crap that we bring with us. And then you get the ones that are, you know, more in the middle of the United States and around, or they're where people are and they get used to having to deal with us and they're not as bad. They seem more tolerant.
Tell me about the Gugway. This creature mystifies me. I don't ever want to run into it, but explain the difference between a Gugway and a Sasquatch.
We would love to get the DNA on it to run it, honestly. But, you know, getting anybody to walk away from one of those things alive is very rare. Gugways look very much like a Sasquatch in the body. They're large, they're broad, muscular, bipedal, can go down on fours, but the face is where the difference is at. And just like a baboon has more of a snout with a little bit of the wrinkles on it, so does the Gugway. But these things, I have not come face to face with one. I have done some work with the Sasquatch as far as with them. And these are killing machines. That's what they do. They don't care if they're killing our people. And yes, they've taken out some of our people. They don't care if they kill each other. They're cannibalistic in nature. They will kill anything in their path. They go from place to place to place and they kill. That is what they do. I think that, not that there aren't bad Sasquatch, because I've said it before, there's good and bad in everything. The good ones are the most loving thing you'll ever encounter. The bad ones are lethal. Just like our people. Okay, I feel safer with the Sasquatch than I do our people. But these Gugly are not safe with anybody. Nothing is safe with them. They literally kill for the pure joy of killing. And I do believe, in my own opinion, that there are several cases that the Sasquatch get blamed for hurting someone, damaging things, killing people, and it's actually a Gugway hit.
So what does a Gugway stand? What does it weigh?
Oh, I've heard various things on that. I've heard people talk about them being 12 to 14 feet tall. I've had other people in southern states that have seen that they were 8 to 10 feet. I would say probably 800 to 1,000 pounds. Some of them get enormous. But their body type, if you didn't look at the head, their body type is very similar to a Sasquatch. Now, according to the Sasquatch, they are not, they're not related to them. I would think if you check the genetic markers on it, you would find, because the body looks so much alike, that you might find some kind of DNA that would connect them. I've always thought, and this is just my own opinion, and I'm probably wrong on this, but I have often wondered if this isn't something that, we know the government's created hybrids. They've done a lot of things with hybrids, and they have taken the Sasquatch and they have taken DNA from them, and they have held them in underground bunkers and created hybrids with them. And I've always wondered if this was something that the government created because it would make sense for war or whatever, and they can't control it. There's nothing that can control these things. Now, I did ask several Sasquatch about it, and they said the only thing they knew were that they thought, they were born on this planet like the rest of them. But, we already know that that's been genetic manipulation on how they even got here. So I don't know what created these things, but if you ever want evil, then that's what you're looking for. They are not demonic. Okay, there's a difference between being demonic and being evil. There's a huge difference. Just as lethal, but there is a difference. And these things are pure evil. And all they are is one giant ball of hate and destruction. They are probably, in my opinion, of all the things that you can encounter out in the woods, whether it be the portals, ETs, different odd cryptids or whatever, I would think these would be absolutely the most dangerous because they don't stop. They will build structures. They will do all of these things, and they do a lot of mimicking of the Sasquatch. But I do not believe, unless there's a genetic marker in there that ties them to them, the Sasquatch do not believe that they are related. They are actually terrified of them. And the only way they ever are able to kill them is they have to get them down on the ground and rip the heads off. And that's how they kill the Gugly, according to them. But they're all
Where are these Gugway?
Pardon?
Where are these Gugway?
They're all over the planet. There's not a place they don't go.
But are they big numbers? Are they small numbers?
I don't think there's nearly as many of them as there are the Sasquatch, no. But there are plenty of them. They are more reclusive, and they go in groups to hunt and to kill. Occasionally you'll get a lone one. Now, I have never encountered one personally. I have witnesses that have dealt with them. I talked to the Sasquatch about them. I've talked to the dogmen about them. Now, I did have one night that I had a couple of Sasquatch tell me not to leave my house. There was a Gugway in the woods, and that they would deal with it. And I was like, okay. And I just sat tight, didn't go outside or anything. And they finally came up and said, it's safe. They're not here. We took care of it. But other than that, I have been very blessed. I have not come up against one. Wouldn't want to. But, if anybody that's listening, if you start seeing that snout with those wrinkles on it, do not mess with these things because they are unstoppable. They're like a freight train. The Sasquatch have a hard time killing them. They really do. I personally don't think that the numbers are as high as there are of a Sasquatch. I think the numbers are much, much, much smaller, but they are definitely there. And they are definitely dangerous. And like I said, they're cannibalistic. That is their nature. They'll kill each other if they want, want to. They don't care. They literally are killing machines.
Are they, if you look at the United States, are they all across? Like, where do these reports come? We don't hear a lot of reports of Gugway.
No, I think they're more reclusive, and I think the numbers are considerably less than the Sasquatch, thank God. They are across the United States. I've not heard of any places that they are not. But again, the numbers are much smaller, in my personal opinion. From the reports that I'm given, from what the Sasquatch say, what the dogmen say, as well as other cryptids, there are not as many numbers of them. But what the problem is there may be small in numbers, but they're just beyond deadly. And I don't think there's any place that they wouldn't go. I think in that respect, just like the Sasquatch, they go where they want to go. Now, do they have abilities? I could not tell you. I've not been able to I've tried to find out for years. I would imagine that they would, because of that whole cryptid thing. They all seem to have them. I haven't seen anybody that has confirmed, to me anyway, that they've seen them use them. Now, I've had Sasquatch get hold of me and said that they were under a Gugway attack, and I've done what they've asked me to do, astrally and with the energy and that kind of thing, to help out. When I scan these things, it's like they're soulless. Like, you literally pick off nothing but hate off of them. They have a completely different feel to the Sasquatch. There is no empathy in it. Sasquatch are a very high frequency being, just like the dogmen are, and you can pick up emotion, you can pick up various things off of them. I've not been able to with the Gugway. Gugway, it's got just a very intense, awful feeling about them. It's cold, it's calculated, and it's like it's angry and aggressive at all times. Just the feel of them. And that's with me doing that astrally when the Sasquatch have had problems with them. They'll want me to do certain things to help them in that situation, which I have. I've opened portals where they have gone after the Sasquatch, for the Sasquatch, but they have a whole different feel. It's really creepy. It's cold. It's awful. Like I said, you're not going to find anything good about them. For anybody that even thinks that they've got one around, just stay away from it. There was a couple.
How would you know, though?
Pardon?
How would you know, though? Are there footprints different?
Do you know? I've not seen the structures from the Gugway. I have reports of people that have said that they've had these structures that they found that look different than the Sasquatch. How different? I don't know. They didn't have photos of them or anything. They just said that, it just didn't look like what they were used to seeing with the structures of the Sasquatch, because the Sasquatch were around at that time. And then the Gugway moved in and everything changed. Our bodies are energy readers. We're basically a meter. Even if you don't know how to use the energies or how to read it, it's going to change. When they're around, you're going to feel a change. Your body is going to react because it's so aggressive. You're going to feel that fear even before you see them. Are there footprints? There's absolutely going to be footprints. To my knowledge, I have not heard one person, and this could be wrong because it's just people that I've talked to about them. I've not had one person that have said their footprints look any different. Any images that I've seen, they are bipedal, they are big, they are broad, there is not a tail on them, they look like a Sasquatch from the head down, but it's their head that makes it look different. That's why I said I would love to get DNA on them, only because I would really like to find out what these things are in. Now, everybody is always coming up and saying the Sasquatch are Nephilim. According to the Sasquatch, they are not. There's a theory that we have right now that we're working on, but there's no way to test it because we've got to get, DNA from what we think they are. I don't believe that they are the Nephilim, and they certainly get upset if you ask them if they're Nephilim. I'm wondering if the Gugway are not were the Nephilim. are at, to be honest with you, because they seem to follow more suit than a Sasquatch does. There's a difference in being a bad Sasquatch and being Nephilim. And when you talk, and I've talked to Sasquatch all over the globe, and as soon as you bring up the whole Nephilim thing, it goes south really quick because they get really pissy about it and are very adamant that is not what they are. But I believe there could be a chance, just because of the behavior patterns and the aggression with these Guglies, that, you know, maybe that's where the Nephilim tree went and fell. But again, we would have to have their DNA and we would have Nephilim DNA. And I personally believe the government has the Nephilim DNA, just like they have the ET DNA, and they are not going to put it in any database or let us have access to it.
We have about 1 minute and about 1 minute 30 seconds to go. Robin, and I always love it when you are here. You just make the night just a little bit better.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys. I love it here.
Do me a favor, take some time, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes, no middle initial. Or you can find me, if you want services, you can find me on my website at www.paranormal-empowerment.com.
And don't forget about the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference.
And we have the Nebraska, we are hard at work on the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, which our own Dave Scott will be there, which we're very excited about. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up, a lot of really good guests that are coming, a few surprises kicked in there. So we're going to have a really good time. So third weekend in April, it's a Friday, Saturday event. If you get in touch with myself or even Dave, we can tell you what hotel everybody's going to be at, mention the conference, and they will give you a discount there, and you can come and hang out. There's a great little restaurant / pub in there that everybody hangs out at, and you can come meet the crew.
Love it. Robin, thank you so much for a great show.
Oh, thank you.
See you next week, my friend.
You got it.
We love Robin around here as we say goodnight to her. And hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with the little brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, and the Space Travelers Club on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Oh, Robin already left. I'm beat. Richard Warner, how are you? Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got big feet. Thank you tonight to Benno, Candace, Area 54, T-Bone, my man. I'm going to quickly edit this. I'm going to head off to bed. Maybe have a bowl of cereal. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Tomorrow night on the show, say it with me, people. Just say it with me. You know what I want? You know what I want? Merle. Give it to me. Merle. Merle. That's right. That's right. Warming up for tomorrow night, guys. Warming up for tomorrow night. I will see you tomorrow. I love you all. Take care. Have a wonderful night, okay?
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.